I'm fighting a cold, so I'll hang in there. I usually say good evening, but good morning, commissioners. So as you know, Pleasant Street Plaza was originally created during the COVID-19 pandemic as a way to help businesses along Pleasant and Court Streets continue operating when indoor dining was prohibited. What began as a temporary response evolved into a very popular seasonal destination. Because of its success and strong community support, the commission approved a 5-year extension, which concluded in 2025. Since that time, participating businesses have expressed interest in continuing the program and initially requested a 10-year extension of the current arrangement. The Downtown Development Authority discussed this request at its January 12th, 2026 meeting and expressed support for that continuation. From a planning perspective, sorry, my contact just rolled. Pleasant Street Plaza aligns well with the goals of our Downtown Vision Master Plan. It helps activate underutilized space, particularly Court Place Plaza, enhances walkability, supports pedestrian-oriented gathering areas, and strengthens east-west connectivity. As development and new businesses continue to expand on the east side of Main Street, the plaza has become a consistent draw for residents and visitors, particularly during events hosted by St. Joe Today and other community groups. Due to the previously unknowns of the downtown parking program, the Pleasant Street Plaza Group requested a 1-year, what we're calling a bridge year. The intent of this bridge year would extend the current arrangement while staff works with participating businesses to develop a clear citywide policy addressing compensation for private use of public right-of-way, specifically the paid parking spaces. The DDA discussed this concept again at the April 6th meeting, just a couple days ago, and expressed support for the bridge year approach. And as we know, paid parking was approved only very recently, further complicating this issue. However, continuing the prior agreement at zero cost, particularly for the private use of paid parking spaces on Pleasant and Court Streets, raises constitutional concerns. While the arrangement was appropriate during the emergency conditions of COVID, those conditions no longer exist. The private use of public parking spaces requires just compensation. To better understand this best practices, staff has started to research on how other municipalities handle similar situations within paid parking districts. Many communities charge market rate use for on-street parking spaces. I'm sorry, you guys. For illustrative purposes, just again, for illustrative purposes, if we assume full utilization of the paid spaces on Pleasant and Court, the parking program as it stands today is 9 hours a day. It's $2 an hour. And the paid parking program, the downtown parking program, is 99 days long. So the estimated value, say of 7 spaces between 221 and the market, that cost is $12,474 for the season. The 3 spaces by Silver Harbor is $5,346. That said, staff is not, and I want to highlight not, recommending a full market rate approach for the bridge year. I have not been able to complete, or we have not completed a full paid parking season. Paid parking has not yet been implemented on the east side of Main Street, so there's not sufficient utilization data. For those reasons, a more transitional approach is believed to be more appropriate while data is gathered and we have time to develop a long-term policy framework through the remainder of 2026 and into 2027. Potentially, there's 2 options that could be considered today. These are just ideas. Currently, the sidewalk license structure, which is what is used for sidewalk dining purposes, charges $26 per seat. So for example, this would be one option that could be considered. 221 Main has 40 seats currently at Pleasant Street Plaza. That would be $1,040. Silver Harbor has 36 seats, $936. The market has 24 seats that are at picnic tables. Those, my understanding, are public, so there would be no charge. Anybody can use those. 221 and Silver Harbor, because of the liquor license concerns, have to be roped off. And the community tap has 9 seats, but they already have a sidewalk license agreement in place. Moot point. Option 2 theoretically could be a $500 per spot fee. That's roughly 30% of the daily use of a parking spot. Again, we don't have the data because we haven't done parking on this side. That's 30% of daily utilization. We implemented a discounted pass, free resident parking. We just don't have that type of data yet. So we looked at roughly 30%. While it's still below estimated market value, it reflects compensation for the temporary loss of parking spaces. It's up to you how you want to do this, but I'm seeking commission direction on how you'd like to proceed. There's
Perfect.
some options.
Thank
That
you.
was a lot.
Was a lot, but that's okay. This is a complicated issue. And now I do want to, we're going to spend some time talking about this, but also I believe that the court or Pleasant Street Plaza folks have a presentation to talk through some of the history of what they've done. Are you guys ready do you guys like to come up and present that for us?
Oh, thank you. I need to
stayed away,
sanitize
sorry.
this. Thank you again, commissioners. So nice to see you once again. I was here Monday night and just appreciate the opportunity to get before you. I know it's challenging sometimes to call a special meeting, never been a part of a special meeting, so really appreciate you making the time out of your day to make that happen for us so that we can speak on this issue sooner rather than later. Time is certainly of the essence. My name is Jamie Gross. I am one of the co-owners of Silver Harbor Brewing Company and Union and Social event venue, which are on Pleasant and Court Streets. And I'm representing 221 Main with Robert Montgomery and his team, as well as Kelly Vega, who's in the room representing the market. And I believe that the only other business owner on Pleasant this side, John, submitted a document maybe to you, Abby, this morning, an email in support of what's happening as well. So we have 100% support of all the business owners that are on our street. So just to step you through this real quickly, the bridge year extension request, I won't take too much time if you move to the next slide. Emily, are you clicking? Thank you. Awesome. So just a quick review, we are asking, obviously, what Kelly just said for the extension, a bridge year extension of 1 year. The energy off the bluff of downtown is part of what this additional 5 years that we've had in existence has really brought to life, encouraging encouraging visitors and community members to linger, explore, spend, and enjoy our city on this side of Main Street as well. So the plaza really has helped to deliver on the master plan, on expanding our capacity, on keeping visitors downtown longer, and also driving business downtown to support not just our restaurants, but shops, stays overnight, and even jobs for our employees, some of our employees who are actually here today that potentially would be impacted by this. So just if you move to the next slide, it's really interesting to go through from a forgotten side street just off of Main. So 221 was an anchor. Thank you, Robert, for a long time in that corner that he's been there as a staple. But if you move to the next slide, you'll see what this street looked like previously. So on the left side, dilapidated buildings. No business had been there for years and years. And we transformed 10 years ago this week from what that pinkish purple faded building looked like to a vibrant business that is an anchor business and restaurant for downtown. If you move to the next slide, you'll see the same thing happened with as Senator Prose exited his office and we transformed that building into what it looks like today, which is Union Social Event Venue, which has had hundreds and hundreds of visitors that have come in and have spent money in our town because they're there for whether it's non-for-profit events, for weddings, we have a prom this weekend, so we help the local community in a big way. And then the next slide, you all recognize this ugly building on the left that sat on Main Street for a long time, and we're very thankful to the team that developed the market. And now there's a subset of, I think, 10 or 11 thriving businesses that are in that space as well. So we've really done a great job, not to toot our own horns here, but we want to just show the impact that we've made collectively as a Pleasant Street group to really bring some vibrancy and energy to this side of our city. So On the next slide, it just goes through a quick history. Kelly mentioned it, but just visually in 2020, the plan was incepted out of COVID. So we appreciate the city approving that back then and the flexibility to create some outdoor seasonal space. I'm not going to belabor that. Early on, we had some pop-up musicians and just kind of a community hangout zone is how it started. If you move to the next slide, you'll see that it expanded to more growth and community use. So people started relaxing in the streets. We invested in furniture, in tables. You can see the picnic tables, all at no expense to the city. This happened at Silver Harbor at 221 and beyond. We started hiring live musicians. We had our first artisan pop-up booths, and we started to see this become more of a connector for our city. If you move to the next slide, in 22, we formed in partnership with St. Joe Today, the beginning of reoccurring artisan markets in the space. We had pet adoption pop-ups. We had more outdoor dining, the social district. The plaza increased citywide festivals and other philanthropic activities as well. So, cornhole with Dad's Farms, kids activity stations, and other things that we did in 2022. If you move on to 23, it was a big year because we started to get integration into the festivals that all happened west side of Main Street. So Chalk the Block for the first time incorporated into the plaza footprint, and artists were over there. Some youth artists, families used the plaza as viewing space and resting space while we continue to set up and invest. The St. Joe's Cigar Club began, and that's free of charge to the public. We expanded the artisan pop-ups, games, activities, and then, as you can see, a thriving and vibrant in the bottom right tourist area where people are standing and dining and listening to music and enjoying themselves and staying downtown, which is what we want for our city. In 2024, the plaza became, I argue, a community hub, and you'll see that in some of the public comments that were given in support of Pleasant Street Plaza. So that farmers market style market on Wednesday nights continued. Other events continued, but then we served as an acre zone, tapping into the Luminary Night and other summer festivals. And because the foot traffic was so prevalent that there was a need for safety, that then a pedestrian crosswalk was made on Main. So we appreciate that happening as well. And that could safely draw visitors from the east or from the west side to the east side and back and forth, which is what we want. And then Robert decided to, based off the success, continue to expand, and the Copper Pot Breakfast Cafe was opened. And now we are able to serve people from morning all the way till the evening. And then last year was our final year, but even an exciting year because Chalk the Block further expanded into our area. We had the vertical chalk panels, one that's still on display at the market with Bluey and Friends. The 3D Chalk Cube was an anchor destination using Court Place Plaza, which is previously dilapidated, abandoned, et cetera. And it became a festival zone. So you can see in the history, and you can click through, we have some pictures in there just for visual interest in the next couple slides. The kids zone, a street sign that was approved by the DDA, just to continue to create an anchor zone, which is part of our master plan for the city for this area. So if you click ahead, Emily, you can flash through those pretty quickly. So our ask is the next slide, which is the future of Pleasant Street Plaza. We are asking only for, now from the 10-year agreement, we have come back with the new news and change with paid parking, which previously, until the last, I'd say, we'll call it 2026, the last 8 to 12 weeks, it was not on our street. So we did not believe that we were going to be impacted based off the studies and what had been approved. Now that we are impacted, we have dramatically decreased our ask. We would just ask for all of that great activation and community support to not be to dissolve. We don't want it to dissolve. We want to continue to be able to participate in a big way in this community. So we are asking for a 1-year bridge to continue under the current guidelines that we have that have been in place for the last 5 to 6 years, opening May 15th and closing after the last full weekend in September. And that will continue to fulfill one of the major goals that's set forth in the city's plan. And we would also ask to be a part of a longer-term agreement in the future for 2027 and beyond, coinciding with the construction that MDOT's doing, as well as some of the investment dollars that are proposed for Court Place Plaza and Pleasant Street Plaza. We do have over 250 signatures of support, which I'm happy to hand those over to Abby. If you look here, don't take our word for it. I'll just highlight 3 or 4. Playing in the court with our son without having to worry about cars. It's a place where my elderly mother can listen to music without pressure to buy downtown, so I can go shop downtown. A resident who lives within walking distance of downtown, I frequently walk or bike to the area with my children to enjoy the farmers market and then go to the beach and other local activities. I've often visited Pleasant Street as a plaza as a patron. The space is in desperate need of continued updates to reach its full potential. The area will remain underutilized and we will miss a significant opportunity to grow our town's summer appeal if this goes away. And you can continue to see all of the comments. It was awesome to see all these comments from residents who are in full support of continuing Pleasant Street Plaza. So thank you for your time, and I can stay here for any questions that you might have.
Thank you very much. All right. So
Michael, I do have statements from Rep. Mike. Can I read those quickly?
yes, go ahead.
They can inform your deliberation to the extent. Sorry, let me repeat that. I do have statements from Mayor Thomas and Commissioner Sorolla that I want to read before you start deliberating, just so they can inform your discussion as relevant. So, statement from Mayor Brooke Thomas. I am unable to attend this morning's special commission meeting due to work commitments. Apparently staff can't read today. I strongly support our downtown businesses and believe it is vital that we continue moving toward a future that prioritizes small business growth and the creation of welcoming, vibrant public spaces that reflect the character of our community. I am in favor of the Pleasant Street Plaza and would like to see it continue to develop into something truly special and unique for our city. I believe it is essential that all decisions are made fairly to ensure equal treatment of all businesses in our downtown. Throughout my time on the commission, we have had several discussions about the fair and legal use of publicly owned property. At the time of writing this statement, I do not have enough information about the best path forward in order to make a truly informed decision about the plaza. I ask that the commission here today make a decision based on facts, equal treatment, and best interest of the city. And now a second statement from Commissioner Mike Sorolla. Good morning. I am unable to attend this meeting on short notice due to travel, but would like to share comments regarding the issues to be weighed today. Let me start by saying, ideally, this subject would have and should have been addressed at the April 27th meeting. The invocation of a special meeting for an item that aligns very much with standard business sets an unfortunate and unsustainable precedent. The expiration of the 5-year agreement has been on the horizon for 5 years. An emergency special meeting on this subject does not feel necessary or appropriate. On the matter at hand, I was originally in favor of the seasonal closure of Pleasant Street for the purpose of forming the Pleasant Street Plaza. The original agreement was to serve as an experiment for the concept, one that has been successfully deployed in other coastal tourist towns. After 5 years, the concept is largely popular with some concern regarding fairness, given the obvious parking capacity challenges St. Joe faces every summer. As it pertains to fairness, I do believe it is appropriate for the businesses that directly benefit from the Pleasant Street Plaza to compensate the city for the loss of parking spaces, particularly with reinstatement of the downtown paid parking program for the 2026 season. Let me be clear, I voted against the paid parking program as I don't believe it accomplishes many of the goals and objectives outlined. Paid parking passed on a 3-2 vote. Now, as we consider the future of the Pleasant Street Plaza and the broader challenges of too little downtown parking, we must be sure that benefits and challenges be equally distributed both geographically and across all similarly scoped business entities. The removal of parking spaces for the placement of tables that benefit eating and drinking establishments adjacent to Pleasant Street Plaza is a unique opportunity that is not equitably offered for similarly scoped business entities west of Main. The city feels compelled to charge for prime parking right in front of businesses on State, Broad, and other major streets west of Main. It seems logical and reasonable to ask businesses that benefit from the suspension of parking in the Pleasant Street Plaza to pay something for those spaces. I am not opposed to the Pleasant Street Plaza concept. In fact, I rather like it. That said, the businesses that benefit from the concept and the subsequent loss of parking spaces have 5 years of revenue history for reference. If the enhanced revenue history and/or future generating expectations do not support a payment for the loss of parking spaces in the name of fairness, then perhaps the perceived benefit of the plaza is not as significant as believed. Unquestionably, city parking capacity is compromised by the plaza. If there is sufficient offsetting benefit to the businesses in close proximity, payment for the compromised spaces seems appropriate and fair to those across Maine that are being asked to supplement city revenue with paid parking in front of their businesses. If sufficient offsetting benefit is not present, we must conclude the Pleasant Street Plaza concept, while attractive, does not accomplish the goal of extending commerce and benefit to the east side of Maine in sufficient capacity for business owners to feel compelled to pay for the loss of space. If that is indeed the case, we should conclude the juice isn't worth the squeeze. Thank you, Mike Cirola.
Can I ask a question of my commissioners and staff too? Because I might be missing something. I'm hearing a lot about equitable treatment. This should be extended to the other side of the street. Has anyone except this group of businesses ever approached the city about this?
Not in my time. And I will tell you that when it has come up in my time, I have encouraged businesses that are interested to approach the commission and have in fact said, I think the commission would be very open to exploring something that the businesses along Pleasant Street Plaza asked, and something great happened. I think the commission would be willing to consider the same.
Yeah, because my frame of reference for this is every single time St. Joseph Today has asked, we have unanimously been flexible and said yes. And I just want to make sure that we haven't ignored something.
I
because
think-
it's hard to hear equitable treatment when it's never been approached.
I can't speak for Commissioner Cirola. I think that there is a perception among folks that I have spoken to that there would not be the same willingness to remove parking on State Street that there is on Pleasant and Courts. I obviously can't speak for the commission and what the commission would decide, but I think that is the feeling that folks have.
Maybe this is prematurely, but I'll go on record, say if that side of the downtown would organize and have a plan and say, I would like to close down this part of the paid parking area for tourists to walk them freely, I would 100% do that. In fact, I think it's a great idea. So
Yeah,
please start.
yeah, I think I can't say yes to something I haven't been asked, right? So the answer is not yes if you don't ask, right? But moving back to the request that we do have, in front of us here, it's an experiment that really, when I think about it, it worked. And in my opinion, it seems to have worked quite well. When I think about what makes our downtown good, when I go downtown and I try to take my family to go find something to do, what's taking me there is not where am I going to park? That's the last thing on my mind, right? That is the thing that comes with the thing that I want to do. I am considering, do I want to go down here and listen to music? Do I want to go down here and eat? What do I want to do? This is, the plaza itself it's more things to do. And it is an example of things that we should be encouraging more of, right? And so as I look at the physical evolutions that have taken place, it is exactly what a city that is old like ours needs to have happen. We need to have businesses that will put themselves out there, take experiments, rehab these old facilities, turn them into something new, find ways to draw people better in. So I'm incredibly supportive of the concept of what has been built over the years. And as what we have to consider today is, do we want to permit this experiment to continue? I very much do. I'm very much in favor of having us find a way to extend this on. It seems there's some logistical concerns, which I think is part of why this has been bumped. And so I think we're here, today as a special meeting, more so because we recognize that there has been some delays in getting this, because there is, Kelly shared with us a couple of the nuts and bolts, if you will, and some of the legal requirements that I have been learning about, with the use of public space. And I think that for me is where the equity component of this comes from, because whatever decision we make here is hopefully going to be something that that we can utilize to encourage more of this behavior. And so I don't want to see less of Pleasant Street Plaza type things. I want to see more of it. And so I think the importance of whatever that whatever that rationally related, compensation for private use of public space, I think it's complicated, and I don't think we're quite there to make that decision on what should the fee be. But I do want to be quite clear. I want we need to encourage more activities like Pleasant Street Plaza, and not less of them. So we need to take some time to figure out what that policy is, because that will help us to hopefully have more requests like this in other parts of the city, of the downtown, that will hopefully, follow suit, and feel free to dare and experiment. And, you never know what we might say yes to until you ask us. So I think that's an important thing to deliberate on. I'd like to, kind of talk about the idea of extending this. I want to be very clear. I want to see this extend, but recognize that we need some time to figure that out. So what I'd like to propose a conditional 1-year approval to give our experimenters over on Pleasant Street the assurance they need that the commission does want this, this year. They can have the assurances to proceed as is, with the plaza this year, pending a finalization of what that policy, this will be a new city policy of what is that rationally related fee that we charge that will apply not just to this, but it will apply to any future requests that we get for using public space.
I want to jump in just a little bit, Michael, and I apologize. I think that what Kelly wrote in her memo, and what I agree with, is we have not had, certainly in my time with the city, and I don't know for how long, a policy on this period. And I think that we will need more than until the 27th to have a citywide policy. I think a citywide policy will take us probably through the end of the calendar year to really make sure we understand the complexities of a citywide policy or even a downtown policy. I mean, that is something that we won't have in 2 weeks. It is something that's wildly overdue, and something that we will certainly be working on. What I think we want to get to is something for a bridge year that has, a basis, a rational basis, that could be, to your point, replicated, whether it's on State Street or elsewhere, based on a rational basis. And it could be the foundation for a citywide policy. But I do just want to make that distinction, because I don't know that what we do in a bridge year, in a first year of, the downtown parking program where we'll be gathering data, it might not look exactly the same as what we will propose for subsequent years. So I just wanted to make sure that that's clarified.
I'm just going to jump in with one more thing to support a bridge year concept. There is a lawsuit right now in the Court of Appeals, and I am losing the name of the municipality that's been sued, but it's regarding use of a street for private purposes, and it's not even it's not even addressing the fee that's charged, but that's something I'm keeping an eye on. It may take time, but I think Northville, yes, Northville is the street, the city that's being sued right now for that. So all municipalities are watching that very closely, because this is a common practice in many areas, but we're interested to see where that goes. So I think from a bridge year concept and policy development too, bridge year would be where I would recommend you go at this point in time, as we kind of keep an eye on that. So
I think having this, deciding on a bridge year would be smart, because we're going to learn a lot from it. But I think we should be mindful of the other side of the street too.
Yeah, we need to, the policy, like you said, yes, I agree. It's going to apply to, everywhere, and citywide. And to your point, Emily, we may need a little bit more time than 3 weeks from now. But what I am hopeful that we can come up with is, what does the bridge year look like? And I think hopefully we can hone in and scope in within the next 3 weeks to answer that question. The direction kind of that I would like to propose we move forward in is, for us to move on this bridge year. I think there's a lot of wisdom to a 1-year bridge year. We have ample evidence that this experiment is successful and it works, and so let's continue. We also know that there is an evolution going on, in the downtown. There is a lot of different things going on, be it infrastructure repairs and improvements, to different policies, and this is going to add more to it, right? If we develop a new policy on how private entities can partner with us to get public space, to put them to, we always have to look for the question of what is the best use of any public space. And I can very easily be convinced that it is a far better use of a piece of property to, not be a piece of pavement for a car to sit on, but for people to be eating and talking and drinking and interacting. People using spaces is always more valuable than pavement for a car to sit on, to me. So as we move in those, ways and rethink these things, there's a lot of moving pieces. So I think there's a lot of wisdom, is my point, in doing a bridge year, because that will help us develop plans for the longer term. And even, we often reference things like the master plan. Those will often be due for reviews and refreshes as well in the next few years. So we have a lot of opportunities to re-envision what the next 30, 40 years of St. Joe will look like. This all plays a part in it. I think there's a lot of wisdom. We'd be smart to do a bridge year, help figure out some of those. But I'd like to, propose a bridge year contingent on, we find, I believe there's some legal, component and requirement that we have some kind of a rationally related fee that is appropriate for this type of thing for the bridge year. I do not believe at this time today that we have that answer of what is an appropriate, fee for me to be comfortable voting on that today. So I'd like to have that brought back and then direct staff to, figure out what that is. That is something that I'd like the rest of the commission to vote on as well. So I would propose that we move forward with a bridge year contingent on staff finding a rationally related fee that we can propose and vote to ratify at the very next city commission meeting later this month.
I would like to add to that. I would like a drawing of what's happening.
Sure.
I mean, I know I live here, but
Yeah. Yeah.
we need a drawing to make it official. And I would like to explore the idea of making that section a social district.
It
Yeah.
is.
It so you can go in on the street.
Yep.
Okay. I have a side question.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
That's okay. Yeah.
So if I am a consumer and I want to buy a bottle of wine at the wine shop and the market, am I allowed to go on the street and open it?
No, because it has to be in the social district container.
So
That's
you're
part of the social.
So
district.
you have to buy the container? Oh, I mean, you get it with the drink, but that's what if
I
they
think
sell
the
the
folks
container?
in the room can answer these
Oh, thank you.
questions better
That's
than
liquor license
we
thing.
can.
Okay,
You cannot open any of my alcohol.
okay,
Unless you're in your own home or residence or private place.
okay.
The social district is only for the pub served a licensed bar.
All right. I get that question all the
I
time.
get it every day.
I'm like, I don't know.
It does bear mentioning that the St. Joseph Social District started with Pleasant Street Plaza. And then it expanded to the downtown. Yeah, that was another experiment with Pleasant Street Plaza.
Yeah. Now, there are two separate social districts that I think is
Can't walk
worth
across the street
highlighting.
with them.
And I think that was, correct me if I'm wrong, a decision of the commission so that no one was walking across the street.
That we know of.
No one was walking across Main Street. I'm just going to leave that there. It could be one, it could remain two. I don't have a preference, but there are technically two. And so what comes from the east side is not meant to go west, and what comes from west is not meant to go east.
across MDOT.
I'm going to defer to Michael whether he wants to call on the raised hands or not.
Yeah, well, let's.
There will be time for public comment.
Yes, we will be having some time for public comment today, but let's us keep talking here first.
So to me, we do already have a fee structure here and available in place with the cafe seating. And again, this is a discussion, so I'm open to hearing multiple sides of this. But when I look at the two scenarios presented to us, that cafe seating makes a whole lot of sense. What I think is unique about the Pleasant Street Plaza is that the businesses are unanimously supportive of essentially giving away those spots for turnover. And the goal of paid parking is turnover, so we can get people into your business, right? Now, what's unique about Pleasant Street Plaza is every single business there, again, unanimously has said, we will give that up. We will give that up. We're okay with it. So to me, cafe seating is appropriate to that. I don't love the idea. I'm open to it, but I don't love the idea of charging per spot. Because I think that, one business getting one or two spots in front of them does not run parallel to what Pleasant Street Plaza is doing. A business kind of like owning a few spots in front of them doesn't correspond to how well they're working with their neighbors and what a community effort it is. The parallel to that I would see on the other side of the street is if every single business between, Jimmy John's and St. Joseph today, if every single business said, yes, we are willing to give over this, this turnover in front of our spots, I would also echo a cafe seating kind of arrangement for that public space they've all agreed on. That's where I'm at.
Well, what about the idea of having the restaurant control the cafe seating on the sidewalk in front of their business, but in the street, it's like a food court, first come, first.
I think this kind of does both of that because, Silver Harbor has I believe it's Silver Harbor just because I think that the colors match when I look at the tables. But, there are the public tables and then even outside the market, there are those public tables, but then there's also the closed seating.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it already kind of does both of those.
But
saying-
the Bain is a little different because you can't go through a business to get to the,
So
right?
there's-
Is
Yeah,
that-
so I think we all like this is what I'm hearing.
Yes, we like
and
this.
We all like, there's all kinds of different things that could happen, but I want to keep us focused in on the one that we do have, in front of us. And so, how does everybody feel about moving forward with, I would like to express my support to move forward with the bridge year, wholeheartedly. I think the biggest question we need to deliberate on is do we delay the financial component of the decision to the next commission meeting, or not?
I
Can I ask a question? There are two components from a legal end when you're looking at the fee structure, and I want to make sure I understand what you're considering with that. There's Pleasant Street Plaza, which is open to the public, period. There are components of it. Anyone can come in and use it anytime, buy, not buy, it doesn't matter, bring their own food, beverages in, not alcohol. There's also the component with 221 Main, which is a private use of some parking spaces on the street that are only for 221 use. You have to buy something from their business in order to be there. It's not open for the public in general, although anyone could come in but they have to buy there. Same, and I think there are 7 spaces for that. There are 3 I believe it's 3 for Silver Harbor that are also in that way. So those are private use of public spaces, and fee structures for those are typically looked at very differently from a legal perspective. And that's where you get into the rationally related basis to allow private use of public property, to have a fee associated with that. So Michael, I don't know if you're talking about the fee structure for those in particular or everything, kind of aligning with what Mike Sorolla said. Is there additional cost beyond that for the public area spaces?
Kind of both.
Okay.
But,
So the Silver Harbor spaces that's just for Silver Harbor, are those located on the sidewalk only?
There are some, but yeah.
If we had a map,
It's
solves
We do have a map. We
so
should have put it
many-
in. We have a map that was approved. So the way that I tend to look at it is there's an extended patio, so that's sidewalk and parking spaces. And then there's Pleasant Street Plaza in addition to, which all, kind of joins together. But those extended patio spaces, the 7 that you're mentioning for Robert, and there are 3 for Silver Harbor, cover both our sidewalk as well as those 3 parking spaces. And there is historically, to Kelly's point, a $26 cafe fee for those, but we're required by the MLCC to have a barrier. That's why there is a barrier there.
Yeah.
But it's, I need a.
No, I know, I'm just saying it gives you. better
It's a
I'm
little
sorry
bit
for my-
confusing there because things have
You-
developed over time. And so the
Yes.
sidewalk, the portion, the Silver Harbor has like 3 or 4 different things going that tie in, but the sidewalk licensing is different than what we're talking about with the street.
You should not apologize. A map would be very appropriate. We'll have it for the next meeting.
Okay,
These are the public tables.
so that anybody can go here.
Yeah, it's just behind that barrier right there that is only Silver Harbor. And those are the 3 spots that Jamie's referring to,
Mhm.
come out from right there. These are spots as well, but they're available for public access.
So, okay, maybe I'm getting into the details too soon, but for the main one, it's all his, but no public. There's no tables here for the public, just one.
So I think that, I don't know which one you're looking at. Tell me if you want me to stop
Page
somewhere.
4.
Page 4. Thank you. The way that I think of it is the street is closed off and it's all for the public.
Mhm.
There are picnic tables, there's cornhole, there's musicians, with the exception of 2 areas that are actually fenced off
Mhm.
that are for private use.
Mhm.
So the pieces that can only be enjoyed if you are a customer of a business are the 7 spaces for 221 Main and the 3 spaces for Silver Harbor. So that's where they have their seating. Some for Silver Harbor is sidewalk and some spills out into the parking spaces. For 221 Main, I believe it's only in the parking spaces and not on the sidewalk. But those are the 2 portions that are private and everything else there is public. Oh, I should correct myself because Community Tap also, it's more permanent,
Mhm.
but Community Tap also has sidewalk that is private.
If I, and I don't know if I need to go to my, I was just gonna say, the 7 spots that Emily was referring to, that's the entire first block of Pleasant Street. That is the, overall net loss, if you wanna look at it that way, of parking. There's 11 total spots on that first block. 4 were given back at the end of the alleyway in front of the retail. So it's a total net loss of 7. 221 Main, as you can see, the umbrellas are fairly spread out. A lot of that was due to the rather rough, to put it nicely, the rather rough street that we had to deal with. We had to really spread the tables out because the road was in pretty bad need of repairs. We finally got those repairs. This would be our first year having a smooth street, so we were actually hoping to be able to condense our seating, and we would probably.
Look at us.
Probably,
Look at us go.
Yes. We probably need somewhere in the area of like 4 spots, so, but we'd be able to condense our seating. And then the rest would be public space, so. Eventually, our plan is to, if we can get a long-term plan put together, we want to invest again in new furniture and things like that, and then some of the tables that we currently use, we could put in more public space, adding to the picnic tables that the market provides right now. That's our hope anyway. It's all about lifting all of us, right?
So the market has, obviously I don't go very often, but I do love the area. Where's the market picnic tables are right here?
They're back further?
You see the green umbrellas? That's
Yeah.
right.
Oh,
Like those ones.
these
Yeah.
guys?
Yeah, so you go out the side. and-
Yeah, so these green, there's another one over there.
Just get hands-on with stuff. I haven't
So
usually
they
done
have, they
that.
have 3 tables that they put out right here. And then ours are, like, you
And
can
the
see like.
3
the
tables
planters,
that the market
they
puts
put
out are for
just to try
public
and cover
use.
up all the busted up.
You don't have to buy anything at the market.
Correct. No, I was
We're-
trying to make
we're
sure everyone
really
else
able
knew.
to
I use them often.
I do too.
Minimize our.
But you can still get the market
private
Wi-Fi.
Okay.
And there would still be, I
So
believe, 12
basically,
spots of paid
everybody
parking
has
on that street.
Public seating except for Main.
I think that that's correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think that's right, or some public use.
Okay.
Right, and again, there is open, you can see there, the street is closed off between 220 Main and the market. So there's room for public use there, but the tables are not for public use. That's correct. So I think, this is part of what, to Michael's recommendation, I think if the decision is to work with the businesses on the rational,
Rationally related fee for.
on a rationally
2026.
related fee, part of doing so is, I think, pinning down that map. The map that we have is from 5 years ago. And as Robert articulated, things have changed. And as, we collaborate with these businesses to figure out the rationally related fee, pieces might move. And I think it could give us the opportunity to come back with rationally related cost, a finalized map, and a lot more clarity for everyone.
There's a lot to do, and luckily, multiple things can be done at one time, right? Or, at once. So all of this, is kind of even further cementing me in the direction that I firmly believe that we need to, move forward with granting, Pleasant Street Plaza to continue to operate. I believe that we have enough information before us to all recognize that that is a good thing for our city, that we need more of it, and that we need to find ways to encourage more of it, not less. So I'd like to move forward with granting, the bridge year contingent on staff being able to figure out for 2026, what is that rationally relatable fee? And my expectation would be if we move forward with this kind of direction today, would be that you guys would be working with them to, figure out those maps, figure out those logistics of what makes sense for this year, to then further allow, that will play a part into the long-term, policy that we've outlined that needs to be created. But that would be how I would like us to proceed today is with a motion to approve the Pleasant Street Plaza bridge year request contingent on at the next city commission meeting that we have a finalized proposal for that 2026 rationally related fee for use so that we can provide firm final approval at that time. So I'd like to provide a conditional approval today. Are either of you willing to make a motion to that effect?
This might not be possible. Lori can tell me it's not possible. I want to give these businesses the certainty that we're moving forward, right? But I'm a little bit worried to leave the fee part of that hanging out there without some scope of what that could be. Saying like on a, contingent on a fee. Is there a way for us to understand?
Cap?
Like a cap or something like that on it at this point? Because I'm worried that not that I think it would be our intention, right? But what we come up with might be so far away from what the businesses are able to do that it'd be useless, essentially.
Oh, I don't know if this helps, but I would like a fee system based on table or chairs, so then the business can determine how many chairs and tables that they want to.
So, from a legal standpoint,
I know Roy would say
it's
something too.
the fee structure, yeah. I mean, there has to be a basis for it.
Yeah.
And I think giving staff time to come up with that. And I don't know if it's something that businesses would feel is viable or not for the private use in particular. Again, I think there are two components we're dealing with here. The public areas that are open to anyone and the private areas that are not, that are only for those private businesses. And the courts have been very clear on how they look at determining use of that. And there has to be some adequate compensation for that. And I think staff would come up with recommendations. And what we do know right now is a couple things. One is we've never looked at this before because we haven't had that street usage. COVID allowed a lot of flexibility just to keep businesses surviving and creativity. And, it was a great thing to do. But at this point in time, we need to really dial back and look at what legal restrictions municipalities have in allowing that use and in equity throughout the city. So developing that policy is going to take some time, but I think the bridge year will, again, give some opportunity to dial down on that a little more in conjunction with the paid parking component, which is new. And so there's already been some value associated with those parking spaces by virtue of the parking plan. So again, Kelly did some initial work as quickly as she could to try and determine what that is. We won't have great numbers until next year, and that'll just be based on the first year. What I'm getting back to is what we just need to have some justification for it. I think sidewalk usage is very different from street usage, which it needs to be determined. Kelly has looked at some policies that other communities have had with how they charge based on public parking spaces being used. That doesn't mean we do the same thing. Every community is a little bit different. And it may or may not be something that the businesses feel is worth doing for their business. But again, we have to associate the value based on the benefit. So, and the loss of use to the city and to the public.
Which I believe we can have that figured out
Yeah.
by the next commission meeting, which is.
Yes, and I think option number 2, as I'm looking at that, I mean, again, we're tying it into something that's relevant to the city and what the commission has already approved. So I would be looking at that more than the sidewalk licensing, because that is very, very different. And maybe there's a hybrid, but I think there's just more time needed to really delve into that.
When you speak of value, are you speaking of the value, the monetary value of the paid parking, or the amenity of Pleasant Street Plaza versus a piece of concrete to park the car?
The component, it all comes in together.
I'm just wondering, when you say value, what is are we looking for an amenity or money?
What the Constitution and the courts have made clear is that the cities, a municipality cannot allow private use of a public space for private gain.
What we do it now?
There,
Shoes.
Shoes pays per seating under a vending license agreement, just like
We
22.
have an established fee.
I am not going to argue with you. What I'm trying to tell you is that these are the considerations.
We're looking for some guidance, and I think it's kind of a problem.
I think, Robert, to answer your question, I think the distinction is that, and our attorney can certainly correct me if I'm wrong, is that because the space now does have a price tag on it, it changes the sort of calculation for the city. So I think to answer your question, yes, it is the value means the value of the parking space itself as it relates to the charge.
Yeah, that has to be
That's-
taken into
I
consideration.
think that's your answer.
Yeah.
So,
It's
all right,
the-
I'm gonna
yes.
rein this back in here. So there is, and even in the last, 48 hours, I've heard about 100 different ways, to come up and different ideas of what that, fee could look like, what that compensation could look like. And all of that is to say, this conversation is even more reason why I do not believe that we have that number and can make an adequate decision on that number at this point in time. And so why I would like to reserve that part because I do believe that staff needs some more time to work with you folks and to figure out what is that fair, cost for this year, which has been part of the delay in even getting us to this point. So, again, I'd like to scope by the idea of, providing an approval for the plaza, knowing that, it is, the onus will be on staff to work with, the business owners and representatives from Pleasant Street Plaza to find and present to us, along with the rest of the commissioners, a rationally related fee that is acceptable to all that we can vote on and ratify on the 27th of this month. That is what I would like to set the expectation. I think that is hopefully from you guys' perspective, knowing that we want to see this happen, it gives you time to move forward with those staffing decisions. Obviously, the city's proposal of what that rationally related fee, that will get voted on and be finalized. But this gives us all time to work and have those conversations together to figure out what works for everybody. And allows the other commissioners that are not here tonight to be able to have some say so in that matter as well, that component of the piece as well. But I see no reason to delay on expressing our firm support for the plaza and knowing that this is a good thing that we want to see more. So I ask again if there's anyone willing to make a motion to that effect.
What do you think, Lisa? What do you think?
I have a question for you. So
Yeah.
what, are you stuck on the fee or are you?
I'm just worried that we're not actually giving businesses the go-ahead right
So-
now. And that was the intention of our meeting, right, was to be able to give the businesses a go-ahead and not wait until the 27th. Does that make sense?
Because the floor plan can change or the fee can change? Because we're saying we want to
Yeah.
do a bridge here, like.
We do want to do a bridge year, right? But yes, we want to do a bridge year. But the intention of this meeting was to make sure the businesses understood that like all of the pieces on our side, on the city side, on the approval side, we're good to go. So they could run. I think that it would be different for a business if is it going to be, $500 a spot or $2,000 a spot? That is actually going to impact like their go ahead or not. And I feel like we're making them wait for that go ahead until the 27th.
So would.
But I don't know.
I agree,
don't
it
know.
would be
Yeah.
preferable to have everything ironed out, but at this point in time, I simply I've heard way too many ideas on how to even propose the structure to feel comfortable deciding on one at this point in time. I think it's reasonable that we set a deadline on this, but there's too many options and we
Mhm.
don't have one that is firmly presented to us to be able to make that last part of the decision. I think the furthest that I think we logically can go is to provide that. It is an approval of this plan, this bridge year. That is what I am suggesting here, contingent on staff finding that fee that we then must say yes to. That it would be my hope that the direction staff takes is to gather input, so that what they present to us, that they have worked and that they believe is rational, is something that is not going to be scary. But I'm putting that onus on staff to find that number and present to us. My demand as a commissioner would be do that research, put that together and give it to me to vote on the 27th. I want to say yes to everything, contingent on having that figure that I can vote on again. I'll know how they feel about it no later than the 27th, as far as how the Pleasant Street Plaza representatives, feel about the fee. But I prudently, I do not think that I can make a decision on what the fee for 2026 will be at this point in time on April 9th, because there's just too many unknowns. And I want to put it on staff to work with them to figure out what that should be and what's fair.
So I understand there's a lot of unknowns, but I'm wondering, would you be more comfortable if a motion was proposed that the fee structure was based on the sidewalk vendor, right? What we have now, the fee structure, and then at the same time, staff can work on a policy for 2027. So we're saying this is what they're going to pay for this year because we know we need time to work on it, so it's fair to everybody. So then we know it's not gonna be, won't be too much money because it's based on our sidewalk policy. What is that called? Ian? Sidewalk.
Sidewalk
policy?
cafe.
License agreement.
Yeah.
It's the license agreement.
I mean, that's just throwing out another theory, I understand, but then, you'd feel more comfortable because it's not. Cause I think of paid parking, if we do how much the value of the paid parking, I think that would be based on the parking pass, right? Not daily, hourly, cause somebody would buy a parking pass for $50. And then that's 3 hour, right?
Yeah, I think I hear this, and there are so many options. I'll be honest, sometimes we have a tendency to hold things up at the city for businesses, and I don't want to do that. So that's part of my push of saying, like, let's do this, let's figure it out, let's make sure that they can go ahead. We have a short season in St. Joseph. It's the nature of the beautiful place that we live, right? And so I'm very worried about impacting livelihood when we do this kind of stuff. I also hear Michael, and hear that this is the opportunity to give staff a very firm deadline for the 27th. And I think that I do think there's value in that as well. Because I think that what I hear Michael saying and what we're asking for is, like, this has to be in front of us on the 27th. We have to give a yes or a no, not a maybe, we'll figure something else out, I don't have enough information yet kind of deal. But we will have something solid on the 27th. Is that kind of what you're
That's
like?
the
Yeah.
expectation of the motion, yeah. That's how I understand my own direction with that motion. Is that how it's interpreted? Okay.
So your concern, are we giving the businesses enough time? Is that what your concern is, right?
Well, yeah, I mean,
Because we can
What
ask
what
them.
I'm proposing, what my motion would effectively accomplish is give them their yes that we are doing it. The contingency on, just like, when, I used to do mortgages, when you buy a house, yes, we have a deal contingent on you getting the financing, and agreeing on the financing being term. Like, this is the firmest assurance that I can think of that I can give them that, yes, the city is approving Pleasant. That is what I'm proposing, that we vote to approve their bridge year request, knowing that there is a contingency that we have one more thing that has yet to be worked out, one more part of this deal, if you will call it, to work out and vote on again to make sure that we are good on that component. But that's what I'm proposing. That's kind of the logistical component of how my motion would play out.
can we ask the businesses if that's feasible?
And I think we've
Okay.
got someone that might want to share some opinion
Okay.
on that too. So please.
We, at least from a Silver Harbor's perspective, we believe in Pleasant Street Plaza for the community. And so we need to move forward we talked about musicians and other investments that are being made. So if the approval that you're saying for the bridge year, that is what we are looking for. We have worked well with the city thus far, and appreciate the commission and the DDA that you would come to a fair and reasonable amount. I would argue that $12,000 is egregious at 100% utilization, because that is not what happened when paid parking was in their 3-week test. So I think in the matter of moving forward, Robert and Kelly could represent the other two businesses. We would like to move forward with the yes, and then have an answer on the 27th on what that would look like. It sounds like there's more discussion. If we could help with the input of that, we'd be very much so be willing to, offer up our time and resources to make that happen.
Thank you. And as you were saying that reminds me, this is the fee for usage. I'd like to reiterate, this is something new. This is not something we've had, we've done, for forever, that we can easily say this would be something new. And that is part of why there is, an abundance of caution with wanting to make sure that we get that. But yes, I'm confident that, as we develop a new fee, something that has not existed, that yes, again, I've heard about 100 different proposals on how you could do it. I have a high degree of confidence in our city manager and her staff to be able to come up with something that is fair and that makes sense. Because ultimately, I think we're all working towards the same thing, right? You guys are trying to put on a production that will draw more people into the city. And that is my job, to find ways to make the city better than what it is today. And this is one of those ways that I think we can work together to make those things happen. So how are we feeling?
I'm ready to make a motion. Or do you want me to, or do you want to?
I presented an outline of what, what a motion might sound like. Does somebody want to officially take credit and make that motion? Is that adequate?
Yes, you could make it as well, either way.
I'll make a motion to approve Pleasant Street Plaza, the bridge year and contingents on the the payment schedule for 2026, and then ask the city staff to work on a payment plan for 2027.
For 2027 or 2026?
Do a bridge payment for 2026, and at the
And-
same time,
Got it.
work on 2027.
Got it.
And should I throw a map in there? And have a
I
map,
think
please.
that's adequate. I think that's adequate direction. All right, we've got a motion. Is there a second?
If we're good, I was making sure we're good with it.
Good, Lori?
Yes.
All right.
Yes, support.
Got a motion. I've got a second. Would anybody like to make any additional public comment on the matter? Please come on up. Oh,
Just two things. This could be kind of hearsay, but to my knowledge, Silver Beach Pizza is using a private or city-owned parking lot and they get to rent it. Where I feel like that comes into play, where even though they're not downtown, that our whole downtown's included to the beach, in my opinion. And I work at Silver Harbor. There is a lot of need to get this done sooner than later, because I have to look at summer and think, okay, I love my job, but if Pleasant Street's not open, that cuts what I make during summer probably in half.
Mhm.
And so I'm like, okay, do I need to quit? Do I need a new job? So I think they're just things where if it's about being fair and picking like a cost for parking lot, I mean, if I'm misspeaking, then I'm sorry, but if they're running a whole parking lot, just compare the price to what they pay per spot and kind of go off that. If that's right, if that's hearsay, then I'm wrong. But I feel like there's so much loop around it. And it is, I'm one out of a staff of like 50. We get up to like 120. And then you have other businesses where you are kind of like that sounded really aggressive. It is a very important thing to a lot of people's livelihoods for downtown, where it does make a really big impact on like locals and just the staff who work there. So that's kind of just my piece on it, but.
thank you. Thank you very much.
Just to clarify with Silver Beach Pizza, they have a long-term lease for the building, which includes the parking lots. They do pay for the use.
Quite a bit.
Hi,
Hello.
hi Tess. My name is Pam Cantor and I own Matterhorn Enterprises with 3 other people. And we own 7-Eleven Pleasant, and John of JV Studios is our tenant. And we initially worked with Robert and Deb to initially start Pleasant Street Plaza. So we were one of the initial people that started that. So we're fully supportive of continuing Pleasant Street Plaza and fully in support of these businesses. However, we own an office building there, so we are not really in support of having a fee assessed against us, because we're losing all of our parking spaces, during the summer, which, JV Studios is fine with that. Obviously, if somebody else, if they leave that spot, somebody else moves in, they may want some spaces during the summer, and that's something that we have to take into account. But I don't think, we obviously don't want to pay a fee for not having spaces and losing our parking. So we just want to be part of the discussion. We found out about this issue in the paper. I also found out about it through St. Joe Today. I think that we as taxpayers, as paying taxes to you guys, should be notified of this issue. And we would like to be part of this discussion going forward. And we found out about it from John last night about 10 o'clock. So thank you.
Good morning. My name is Christian Cook. I'm also a co-owner of Silver Harbor Brewing, and just want to echo everything that Jamie said. We thank you guys for your attention to this matter. The one thing I would just like to share is, as you do deliberate here about a pricing structure, that you would just weigh in the big picture of what all of us, specifically on Pleasant Street Plaza, are already paying. Property taxes are, very much increased. That's a part of it. We're also paying the this, what do we call it, cafe dining, or this, sidewalk dining portion of it. But also think about the big picture of what the city has intended. We have the money going into the little park next door to bring in live music and other things. Silver Harbor Brewing foots the bill for live music every night that we have events down there. So I would just ask that as you deliberate on these things, just take into account what all of us businesses are already and have already invested into making this a success. Thank you guys again for having us today and pushing this up. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. Anybody else? All right, we've got a motion. We've got a second. Abby, if you could go ahead and call the roll.
Commissioner Ulrey,
Yes.
Commissioner Vetni,
Yes.
Commissioner Fernandez.
Yes. Motion passes. Okay, that is the last item of business on our agenda.
Can I jump in with one thing? I realize there isn't city manager or commissioner comments. It really has been a pleasure to work with the businesses on Pleasant Street Plaza. I appreciate what Jamie said, and Kelly has done a lot of the heavy lifting this year. I've worked with them in the past. Could not ask for a more lovely group of business owners. We have many lovely business owners in the city of St. Joseph. This is a lovely group of business owners to work with. So just appreciate their partnership.
Any comments from commissioners? Okay,
City staff has been great. All said really good.
I'm going to turn on the mic so you can say it again.
It's a lot to work out, but city staff is up.
Thank you, Robert.
And thank you, commissioners, for coming in.
okay.
I just had some, it's always pleasant on Pleasant Street.
Oh, so cute.
All right. We're all done with the Pleasant Street Plaza, but is there anybody that would like to make public comment about matters that were not on the agenda tonight?
Today.
Or today? Yes, it is still pre-noon. Thank you. Okay. All right, hearing none, I will go ahead and conclude this special meeting of the City Commission at 11:17 a.m.